Chapter 10 of our text deals with communication in close relationships. We've looked at communication in friendships, in family, and now we look at communication in romantic relationships. Certain benefits to being in a romantic relationship. People in loving romantic relationships tend to live longer and happier and healthier lives. And in a survey, 2,200 participants rated communication as the most important construct for ensuring success in romantic relationships, more than sex and romantic passion. Divorced couples, on the other hand, cited communication problems as the primary change in their now defunct marriage. So 3 characteristics that typify most romantic relationships are love, commitment, and affection. So let's look at the very first one, love. Aristotle defined love as a single soul inhabiting 2 bodies. His teacher and mentor, Plato, was a little bit more cynical, who said love is a serious mental disease. Well, maybe it's somewhere in between. Robert Sternberg came up with a triangular theory of love. He maintains that love has 3 components as well. First is intimacy. That is the closeness and connectedness that one feels in a relationship. Second is passion. This involves the physical attraction, the arousal, and often includes sexuality. This is the heart component of love. And then commitment is the rational side of love, involving decisions to maintain a relationship over time. Let me fix this. These 3 components can be seen as corners of a triangle, and there are 7 possible combinations resulting from the intersection. So hang on as we go through these. The first is romantic love. And these couples exchange highly emotional messages, I adore you, with many displays of affection. Companionative love would be more verbally and non-verbally subdued, with phrases such as I enjoy your company. Empty love would be a shell of a relationship, void of all affectionate messages that we'll see later in the section. Consummate love is, of course, the combination of intimacy, passion, and commitment. And it's ideal, but it's also rare to achieve and challenging to maintain. Typically, love's components, intimacy, passion, and commitment, will wax and wane over the course of the relationship, depending on a number of factors. As couples age, they tend to value commitment more than the other components, although long-term partners experience more passion and intimacy than some stereotypes suggest. So let's look at commitment. Commitment. How important is the role of commitment in a romantic relationship? Well, you see this when people say that they are looking for a committed relationship. Some state they're not ready for commitment, and others state I'm committed to make this relationship work. So what is relational commitment then? It involves a promise, sometimes implied, but mostly explicit, to remain in a relationship and to make that relationship successful. Commitment is both formed and reinforced, of course, by communication. Ceremonies that formalize commitment are an important way to cement that commitment. And of course, when it comes to commitment, it's somewhat of a Western approach to view commitment as the end of romantic love, or the culmination of romantic love. So you fall in love, you date, you fall in love, you become engaged, you become married. In the East, in Asia, large parts of India and Pakistan and other parts of Asia, first comes marriage, then comes love. So most of the world's marriages are arranged. The third aspect of romantic love is affection. And these are both verbal and non-verbal, and they're typical in romantic relationships. They can range from holding hands to saying I love you to sexual activity. This romantic affection is often communicated privately. Sometimes it's expressed publicly. Of course, it's beneficial for romantic partners in a variety of ways. Research in one study, frequent kisses experience improvements not only in their stress levels, a decrease in their stress levels and relational satisfaction, but also their cholesterol went down. In terms of relational benefits, received affection works like a bank account. When a loved one has made plenty of deposits, the partner is more willing to overlook a transgression than when the affection account is depleted. Sometimes there are discrepancies between feelings and expressions of love. You'll text "I love you," but you may be upset at that person, but that's normal. The commitment of love, the commitment aspect of love takes over. Researchers tend to call these acts of texting "I love you" when things are not going well as deceptive affection, and say they're common in romantic relationships. Research also shows that they may also be more powerful than one realizes. Of course, sexual activity is an important means of expressing and receiving affection in most romantic relationships. And of course, sex is best enjoyed as part of a healthy romantic relationship. Effective communication in romantic relationships involve learning your love language and your partner's love language. Gary Chapman in 2010 contends that each person has a love language. And when we get into trouble, when we fail to recognize that our way of expressing love may not match our partner's. So he came up with 5 love, quote unquote, languages, and the 5 categories of communication. The first one is words of affirmation. These include compliments, words of praise, verbal support, notes, letters, other ways of saying, "I value you and I appreciate you." People who use this love language are easily hurt by insults or ridicule, or when their efforts aren't verbally acknowledged. Quality time is the second love language. This is about being present and available for your partner, giving them your complete, undivided attention. Being inattentive or distracted takes the quality out of time spent together. Gifts is the third one. Neglecting to honor an important event is a transgression. Giving gifts is a way of expressing your love. Acts of service, like taking out the trash, filling the car with gas, those things are acts of service. And the key to acts of service is knowing which acts would be appreciated by our partner. And then physical touch. This involves sexual activity. Meaningful touch can also include expressions of affection, an arm around the shoulder, a held hand, a brush of the cheek, or a neck rub. So partners understandably but mistakenly can assume that the love language they prefer is the one that their partner will appreciate. And of course, if you don't speak the same language as your partner, you set up for disappointment. The good news is that we can learn to communicate love in different ways. And then managing digital communication in a romantic relationship. One study found that 27% of online adults in romantic relationships say that online communication has had an impact on their relationship, but not all of the impact is positive. A quarter of cell phone owners said that the phone distracts their romantic partners when they are alone together. Digital communication can be more than a mere distraction to a romantic relationship. Social media may not be a cause as much as a symptom of relational problems, and that men and women troubled by their marriage may turn to social media for emotional support. Edited messages allow communicators to perceive and present idealized versions of themselves through poor manners, stumbling speech, and other bad habits. And of course, mobile devices make it easier to connect than ever, but there's a point where constant calls and texts can seem like an invasion of privacy, and sweetness feels like surveillance. And then lastly, we've been talking about romantic relationships. There are some individuals who want to be single. So social scientist Bella De Paulo observes that although American society affords many social and economic benefits to couples, the amount of people identifying as single has more than doubled in recent decades. And for them, living single allows them to live their best, most authentic, and most meaningful life.